Hi, my name is Melanie, and I'm with Junior Achievement of Northern Nevada. I'm the development manager and finance manager back at the office. And I'm pleased to share with you some stories from Fiona Jane Orolfo, a senior business analyst. Fiona, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Fiona Jane Orolfo. I go by Fiona Jane. I'm a senior business analyst, which means I work in IT, information technology. I mostly grew up in Japan. I came because my dad's in the military. I came to the States in time for high school. I did part of my high school in Japan, came here, graduated. My first degree was international business with minors in marketing and economics and Japanese. And then I went and I taught English as part of the Japanese exchange program, teaching program in Japan. So I did that for 2 years. And then I worked for Honda manufacturing companies. So I did a lot of analyst work there on finance and sales and purchasing. Decided I wanted to go back in further depth for my supply chain management degree. So I came back to Reno, Nevada, and I did my master's business administration. And after a couple different stints, I ended up in IT. And now I work in workers' compensation, redoing systems for the customer experience.
Thank you. It sounds like a really interesting path. Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided where to go to college right after high school?
Sure. I went and did high school in more rural Nevada, not completely rural, but in Fallon, because my dad was military, so I was at the military base there. And when I graduated, we had the opportunity with the Millennium Scholarship. It was brand new back then. I had actually done an interview with MIT and applied to a whole bunch of different schools and decided originally to try civil engineering because I thought I would be an architect at UNR. And then it turned out that while I was at UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, I switched my degree over to a couple different things and ended up on international business, which combined my skill set of speaking Japanese and the business mind I had with my love of working with people and working through projects and activities.
That's fascinating. I think you have one of the most unique paths that I've seen to date, especially given your international experience and your international education. So my next question for you, Fiona Jane, what does a typical day look like for you, Monday through Friday, before, during, and even after work?
So in the mornings, right now I'm work from home because of the quarantine, but my typical day is my first meeting is typically around 9 a.m. I start work anywhere from 6:30 to 8 a.m. in the morning, depending on the needs. And that is because while I live in Reno, Nevada, my team that I work with is in Kansas City. So I said I'm in IT, I'm a senior business analyst. What's really interesting about my role is that I work with all the architects and developers on one side, helping them identify how we're going to build the new system or revamp a current system. And I also work with our business partners. So these can be managers, they can be part of the call center, they can be the people who write the insurance contracts. And so I'm kind of the go-between between the business and the actual developers, which means I'm in a lot of meetings. We follow what we call agile methodology. When you get into software development lifecycle, there's many different ways to implement projects. But what that means is we typically have daily short meetings that start our day. For me, it's 9 a.m. and it's a Scrum meeting where the developers do a stand-up call where they say what they're working on and if they have any blockers and if we need anything else from other people on our team. Then throughout the day, I will typically have other meetings with my business leads. Sometimes once a week, I have team meetings with my developers where it's just our team. So my team that I report to my manager, he's the customer experience team. So all of our developers are in Kansas City for that, the majority of them, and architects. Most of the time, I have that meeting once a week. I meet with other business analysts. We do chapter meetings once every 2 weeks. And I have just a variety of different meetings to either deep dive with the business to understand what we need to build, I'll also have meetings with our customer service centers to understand what is happening with our end users. So for us, those are agents who create the insurance contracts. And they'll call in, and also anything else happening with the systems. When they go live, they're in production, but I also do a lot of work in the stages of development before production. And all of my meetings are around that. So as a senior business analyst, I do a lot of meetings with my business. Like I said, most of my day is meetings. And when I'm not doing meetings, I'm usually transcribing what happened in the meeting in the form of requirements or flowcharts to help either the business or the development team build, or for the business to understand how it currently works, or to support anything for questions or future training. So in that way, I work directly day to day. I'm usually talking to a developer or an architect, or I'm talking to somebody of the business team to understand what their clear wants are.
So it sounds like not only do you have to have strong IT and business skills, but very strong communication skills as well. Is there anything you'd like to share with our students that they might, any skills they might already have or interests they might already have, such as communication, that might help in this field?
You know, when I mentioned my background, I left out that I did a lot of retail. In high school, my first job was actually data entry for hunting applications. So I got into computers early, and then I was an office manager for a small internet provider. But then I've done a lot of retail. I've worked for Macy's, I've worked for Express, I've worked for Apple. And a lot of people always ask me, because I do interviews over at UNR too, as part of the College of Business. As an alumni, I come in and I help a lot of aspiring business people how to interview and what do you need to know. And I always get asked, you know, my background's in retail, because as you go forth in your career, if you work part-time in college, most likely you will do retail because it works around your college schedule, and you can earn experience and money in high school and college. And one of the things in retail that you'll learn how to do is conflict management. And they don't call it that in retail, they call it customer service. But it's one of the best skill sets you can have. And if you ever get to interview for a job in the future and you have retail and customer service experience, that is something you can talk about. Because what I do in my communication is I work with a lot of people and I try to understand what they need and what they want and what they're going to get, and then how I'm going to develop that. Sometimes the business is used to doing things a certain way, and you're going to have to convince them or give them a good reason on why you're going to do it differently. You may do it differently because it's better technology. You may do it differently because it's more efficient. You may do it differently because the organizational structure of the people you are working with has changed. But in that event, you're not going to make everybody happy when you change things. So it's just like a customer. If they can't get what they want, you have to find a way to talk to them and help them see how you're helping them while providing that same level of customer service as a professional. So while some people think that those type of jobs don't translate into something like information technology, they absolutely do. Learning how to talk and communicate and de-escalate somebody is really helpful. I mean, think of any arguments you might have had with friends where you all are trying to agree to something, and apply that into what I do. And that's basically my day-to-day in conversations. The other skill that I would recommend everybody learn a little more is time management. As I said, I'm in a lot of meetings. So sometimes my day can be up to 6 to 8 hours of meetings, which means, when do I have time to do my actual job? My actual job is in documenting or writing down the requirements, not meeting with people. And that requires time management, both to help other people understand what I'm doing and how it might impact them, and to negotiate those timelines of, I know this is really important to you, but looking at all these different factors, we need to rethink about how we're going to deliver this product.
I love it. That's a lot of good information. And I know a lot of people that did start out in retail, And I'm wondering now if they use that experience in interviews or in their future jobs. And I think that they did. At least I hope they did, given what you've just shared with us.
I think it's always challenging, when you are in school and then you are going to become a professional, you learn a lot of things and you're eager to show that you know the things you've learned in school, but you don't have any experience. You might have some little experience. So how do you convince somebody that they should spend the time on you at that time? And one of those is explaining how you can work with people. And if you're not a people person, then your organizational skills are something you should really pitch, because everybody needs somebody who's organized, and everybody needs that. That is actually one of the reasons why I went from being, first I was an architect, and then I was in computer science, and then I made some other changes and ended up in international business. And it was because I liked talking to people, I liked helping people. These are things I learned in retail experience, and I was organized, but I didn't want to code. I didn't want to do those computer science or architect or math, the STEM skills that I also excelled at. So what I do today is a perfect blend of being able to talk to the developers who are going to code, with my enjoying of working with people at the same time. So
That's a really good blend, Fiona Jane. Thank you. Um, Given what we know about your workday and what it looks like, can you tell me how your professional and personal life has changed with social distancing?
well, I don't work in an office anymore. I used to work in an office, so I drive into work. I don't have a commute anymore. I can work from home, so that's kind of cool. The other thing that we've noticed is I'm a very social person, so I was doing dance classes. I have a lot of hobbies where I meet with people. I would have a lot of social activities where if you had a long day, you'd go have dinner with friends, or, as an adult, you'd meet up and watch a movie. And now I just don't do a lot of that. I'm on the high risk for COVID. So I'm one of those who you can't tell there's something wrong with me. I have invisible illnesses and health issues. So those health issues make me very, very aware of social distancing, more so probably than other people in my age group. So as a result, I've turned to less in-person interactions, but a lot more video calls, like the one I'm on right now with my friends. And I do more Netflix than going to the movies. I spend more time streaming and watching things online. And I've also picked up the fun hobby of making masks. So those things have changed. I sewed before quarantine and COVID, but now that's kind of one of the hobbies I do on the side. I think the biggest change is that I'm not as social. I'm not physically going to a lot of places. I'm wearing a mask and I'm not spending a lot of time outside the house. I actually live with my parents now, and they are very high risk for COVID in their age group, and they practice social distancing as well. So because I'm not in a household just by myself, I'm also very concerned about them as well. I don't want to be the asymptomatic person who brings something home to mom and dad. So
I know we all have a lot to think about when living with individuals in high risk situations and categories. I know all of the people that are going to be watching our video also live with their parents or their guardians. But picking up a new hobby is something that I've heard quite a few times. And I'm happy to have you share your new hobby of mask making because it's so helpful. Can you tell us a little bit and share with the students how you think somebody might be able to prepare financially for something unexpected, such as the coronavirus?
A lot of times they tell us when you get out into the workforce, I'm going to sound like a parent here, don't spend all your money in one spot, save a little for yourself. And, when I was little, my mom used to give me $20, and my goal would always be, as much as I wanted to spend all 20, to always have something to give her back. And normally if I had something, she'd let me keep it anyway. So it was in my best interest not to fully spend the entire $20. And so at a young age, I kind of learned that you don't want to spend everything in your hands. You want to save a little. And while $20, if you have $100 paycheck and you have your bills, because you'll have cell phones, you'll have subscriptions, you'll have things you want to spend on, making sure that you just have a little bit put away helps, because that little bit each time putting it away becomes a bigger and bigger sum, so that when something like coronavirus hits, you have something saved away. And in the event that maybe you are in a situation where you're kind of living paycheck to paycheck, as you get older, then looking ahead, and that organizational skill I talked about earlier really helps. So when COVID hit, and because we don't really know how it impacts, I got lucky. I work through, I'm considered essential with IT and my job. But for a lot of my other friends, we had to have some hard talks about, this is a want, this is a need, and more importantly, can you identify how much you actually spend? I think by looking at, and not just today, tomorrow, I mean, if you're going paycheck to paycheck, can you do it for this paycheck? Can you do it for next paycheck? So think of your allowance. If you had to think of everything you want to spend your allowance, whether it's monthly or weekly, can you think of everything you would spend when you get your allowance to the next period when you get your next allowance, to maybe 2 times that amount, to get an idea of how much you're spending? If you find out that you're spending almost everything, is there anything you can cut back on to save? Do you really need that brand new shiny thing? Or if you do, can you make that brand new shiny thing last longer? And a lot of saving is just kind of, spending money and financial. Sometimes it seems really daunting. How do you buy a car? How do you save up for this? But if you take those little steps and you kind of try to plan ahead at the same time, I think it goes a long way. Even if you are living paycheck to paycheck or with a very limited amount of money at each given time, knowing how you would spend it, why you should spend it, makes a big difference in trying to manage your finances.
Fiona Jane, you brought up one of my favorite points, is you have to be able to understand what you're spending your money on. So many of my students and even friends won't even know where their money's going. But if they track, even without trying to save, just tracking where their money's going for a period of time, whether it be one pay period or one entire month, that data, that information, and working in IT, you know how important data is. Having that information is so much more powerful than anything else you can do, just understanding where your money's going. I'm really glad you brought that up. Oh, so here's a fun question. Other than your newfound hobby of making masks, have you seen anything else positive come out of these challenging times?
I think the biggest thing is that learning how to reach out when you can't see people. There's a lot of different ways in today's world we can talk to each other. Cell phone, Instagram, Facebook, social media, still letter writing, emails. I think it's important to understand that it's okay to say, I'm feeling lonely, or, I'm in a funk, or I'm not okay. And I think one of the best things is being able to share that with friends and be there for each other and really say it loud. So maybe you have friends who are new to this. Everyone's new to COVID and the quarantine, but I mean to being isolated. And one of the best things is being able to say, hey, I'm here, hey guys, we're here. And watch people go, oh, I'm here too, who maybe might have not said something before, because you can see each other all the time. So I think one of the coolest things for me is, I said I do more video chats, but I didn't used to do video chats with my friends in New York that often. But now I video chat with my friends in New York twice a week, once every 2 weeks at least. And that's a little different because we took for granted that, we can talk and we'll see each other maybe next year, or but being able to use technology to really build better relationships with my friends, I think has been really cool. Like I said, I don't go out anymore, but more of my friends are like, well, let's talk on the phone more often. Hey, they'll text me, and now it's, hey, you got some time? And I'm like, yeah, actually I do. Or, meeting with friends who we talk regularly on Facebook, but we would never video chat with each other. So now I'm video chatting with my friends and my guys in New York, and I have two of my other girls, one's in Wisconsin and the other one's in California. And while we've all chatted and Facebooked each other, we've never really video chatted, all three of us. And now that's kind of a regular thing. So using technology to kind of meet that need and strengthen my friendships has been really, really cool. It surprised me. I didn't think I'd feel closer to some people when we're all quarantined, but it also helped a lot of my friends feel that, it's okay to say, hey, I need someone to talk to. I'm kind of lonely. Like, hey guys, I'm in quarantine. And I miss you. And you'd be surprised who's like, one of the guys in New York that I was talking about, he'd never really video chatted. He's not that type of guy. And now he's like, hey, you're comfortable with video chat. I'm not that comfortable with video chat. Let's try it. And we did. And like I said, now we, like him and other friends in New York, we're video chatting like once every week or once every 2 weeks when we can.
I love it. So you're finding alternative ways to strengthen your existing friendships. And that's amazing. That's pretty amazing. So thank you for sending us out on such a positive note. Wondering if you have any words of wisdom to share with our students as they think about their career choices and the paths to get there.
I think the biggest thing is sometimes you feel pressure to know what you want. I'm Asian American, and my parents always wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. So when I was civil engineering on computer science, they were okay. And then I said business, they kind of raised an eyebrow. And a lot of times, and you've heard my path, I've taught English, I've worked with manufacturing, which also meant that I worked with research and development with Honda Manufacturing, where some of my meetings were with executives in Japanese. And then I've done a lot of retail. And then before my current role, I consulted where I did the same thing in information technology, but I was working on state systems. And the fascinating thing through my career with all these different things is a lot of times you'll know what you don't want to do. I didn't want to code, but nobody really asks, what do you want to do? And then the other thing you hear is do what you're good at and do what you like. Sometimes you're not exactly what you like doing is not something you're good at, and that's okay. But there are other things you can look at. For me, I like working with people. I like problem solving. I like looking at big problems and making them small and manageable. And that means you can do a lot of things. I like working with people, like I said, so I like teaching. I taught, which also means I like training, and people don't realize that these things can go hand in hand when you're looking at what you want to do. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm actually, I started last year, so it was before the pandemic. I started my second master's degree in photography, which is completely different from business. And I'm doing it for me. I did want to do art when I was younger, and, unfortunately it wasn't in my cards. And as I got older and say, what do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? I said, I kind of like doing art stuff. I like taking photos, and now I'm pursuing it. I'll probably graduate, if I'm lucky, next time with my master's next year. But do what makes you passionate. And I understand taking jobs or doing things that don't make you happy to get by, but you can always find yourself happier doing things you like. So as you think about what you want to be when you grow up, think about things you like doing and focus on that more than the things you don't like. But if you ever have to talk to a career counselor, one of the questions they should ask you is, what do you not like doing, and help you eliminate things that you don't like doing. I don't like coding, but in my job today, I understand coding to help developers. I have to understand how they're going to write the code. It doesn't mean I have to write it. If you like English and you like math, you can do both. If you like sports and you like academic things, you can do both. You can absolutely do both. And I think the other thing I would advise you guys is no matter where you are in your life, find a mentor. Somebody who, and this mentor doesn't necessarily have to stand by your side and tell you how to do things. It could just be someone you talk to about your dreams, and ask them how you get from point A to point B. But I think finding someone I looked up to, whether it was my older brother or some colleagues or somebody else, really helped me because it gave me someone to look up to and ask advice from. And sometimes you need to hear advice, whether you like it or not, from somebody who you respect. And I think, it's great having friends and family, but a mentor is kind of someone outside that. They might be your friend and family, but a mentor is also somebody who's going to help you grow. And when I look at when I made career changes, it was usually talking to a mentor who was like, I think you might be happier doing this, or why don't you look at that? So it's okay to always be changing that. Like I said, I'm still growing up. I still want to pursue art, even though I'm in information technology. And so I said, why not do both? I work full time and I go to school full time. And hopefully when I'm done going to school, I'll get to work both jobs in some capacity, one way or another. So
Thank you, Fiona Jane. It sounds like every step along the way, you've learned a little bit of something about yourself to allow you to narrow down your career into something that's most suitable for you. And I want to thank you again for joining me today and for sharing with our students. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. And we are going to sign off.
thank you so much for this opportunity, and good luck to everybody. Stay safe out there, and know that you guys, it's going to get better, and you guys are going to have great, wonderful futures. Just take it one step at a time.
Thanks again. Goodbye, Fiona Jane.
Thank you.